In the antique library of the peaceful town of Havenwood, nestled among towering bookshelves that kissed the ceiling and the soft glow of golden lamps, sat an armchair upholstered in deep teal velvet. At first glance, it was no different from any other chair in this quiet room. But as time passed, a strange tale spread through the community, a whispered rumor that made people avoid it as they would a cold winter wind. That chair carried sorrow. It was said that anyone who sat down in that deep teal chair would feel an indescribable melancholy, an invisible weight pressing down on their heart. No one knew where the story began, but gradually the chair became an object of avoidance, a lonely island in a sea of intellectual knowledge. The regulars of the library, no matter how curious, all kept a safe distance from it. They chose the stiff wooden chairs or the worn sofas in other corners of the room, only daring to glance at the teal chair from afar, their eyes both fearful and holding a hint of pity. Eleanor, the librarian of Havenwood, was a middle-aged woman with her hair neatly pinned in a high bun and eyes that held the wisdom of thousands of read pages. She had worked in this library for over 20 years and had witnessed generations of readers come and go. The teal chair had been there before she arrived, an anonymous gift to the library on a gloomy, rainy day. Initially, it had been one of the most popular seats, plush and comfortable. But then, the rumors began to surface, spreading like an invisible virus, leaving the chair increasingly empty. Eleanor didn't believe in the rumors. She was a woman of reason and truth, believing that everything had a logical explanation. However, she couldn't deny the fact that no one dared to sit in that chair anymore. Sometimes, on quiet afternoons, she would silently look at the teal chair, wondering what had made it so frightening. One day, a stranger walked into the library. He was tall, with slightly tousled dark hair and eyes that held a deep pensiveness. He introduced himself as Arthur, a writer searching for a quiet space to work. Eleanor warmly assisted him, showing him the quiet areas and introducing him to the library's extensive collection. Arthur chose a small table near the window, where natural light streamed in gently. He diligently wrote for hours, occasionally looking up at the peaceful townscape. Eleanor noticed that he often glanced towards the teal chair in the corner of the room, his gaze not fearful, but seemingly contemplating something. Late one afternoon, when the library was almost empty, Arthur suddenly stood up and walked towards the teal chair. Eleanor, who was rearranging books on a nearby shelf, was slightly startled. She had grown accustomed to everyone avoiding the chair, and the sight of someone sitting down in it felt unusual. Arthur gently sat down in the chair. The soft velvet enveloped him. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and then slowly opened them. His face didn't show any signs of distress or sadness, as the rumors suggested. Instead, he looked serene, even a little peaceful. Unable to contain her curiosity, Eleanor approached him and quietly asked, "Don't you feel anything?" Arthur looked at her, a sad smile flickering across his lips. "Feel what, madam?" "The sadness. People say this chair carries sadness," Eleanor said, her voice soft. Arthur was silent for a moment, his eyes gazing into the distance. "Perhaps," he finally said, "this chair doesn't carry sadness, but it absorbs it." Eleanor frowned, not understanding his meaning. Arthur continued, "Perhaps the people who sat in this chair already carried sadness in their hearts. The chair, with its stillness and comfort, created a safe space for them to confront those emotions. Instead of avoiding them, they allowed themselves to fully feel the sadness, and perhaps in that moment they found a little peace." Arthur's words left Eleanor stunned. She had never thought of the chair in this way. She had always assumed it was the cause of sadness, not a place to release it. Arthur looked down at his fingers, which were tracing the velvet of the chair. "I've experienced a lot of loss in my life," he said, his voice deepening. "Sometimes, I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of tears. When I sit here, I don't feel the sadness increase. Instead, I feel like there's a silent empathy from this chair. It's like a quiet friend, accepting all the pain I bring to it." In the following days, Arthur often sat in the teal chair. Eleanor observed him from afar, and she noticed that after each time he sat there, the pensive look on his face seemed to soften a little. He still wrote diligently, but sometimes he would just sit quietly, leaning back in the chair, his eyes closed as if seeking solace. The other people in the library still kept their distance from the chair, but they began to look at Arthur differently. They no longer saw him as a fool daring to sit in a cursed place, but as a brave man willing to face the emotions that others avoided. One afternoon, a little girl named Lily, who often came to the library with her grandmother, dropped her beloved doll and began to sob uncontrollably. Lily's grandmother tried to comfort her, but Lily wouldn't stop crying. Arthur, sitting in the chair, gently smiled and waved Lily over. The little girl, still sniffling, hesitantly approached. Arthur softly asked, "What's wrong, little one?" Lily hiccuped and pointed to the doll lying on the floor. I dropped Daisy." Arthur picked up the doll, gently brushing off the dust on its dress. "Daisy looks a little sad," he said, his voice gentle. "But you see, she's still okay." Lily looked at the doll, then at Arthur. Her eyes were still tearful, but her crying had subsided. "Would you like to sit here with Daisy for a while?" Arthur asked, gesturing to the teal chair. "It's very quiet here. You two can have a little chat." Lily's grandmother looked a little worried, but seeing Arthur's kind face, she nodded in agreement. Lily hugged her doll and sat down in the teal chair. Arthur sat quietly beside her, saying nothing, just offering a gentle smile. A while later, Lily looked up, her eyes dry. She smiled at Arthur. "Thank you, mister," she said. "Daisy feels better now." From that day on, something remarkable happened. People began to look at the teal chair with different eyes. They were still a little hesitant, but curiosity began to outweigh fear. A few people, carrying their own private sorrows, bravely sat down in the chair. They didn't feel a sudden wave of sadness wash over them, but instead, they experienced a stillness, a space to reflect and accept their emotions. Eleanor realized that Arthur had brought a profound change to the library and to the entire community of Havenwood. The teal chair, from a symbol of avoided sorrow, had become a sanctuary for the spirit, a peaceful place to confront the burdens of the heart. Arthur stayed in Havenwood for a few months. He finished his book in the quiet of the library, often sitting in the teal chair to seek inspiration and empathy. When it was time for him to leave, the whole town seemed to feel a gentle sense of loss. Before he left, Arthur sought out Eleanor. He looked into her kind eyes and said, "This chair doesn't carry sadness, madam. It simply mirrors what we carry within ourselves. And sometimes, looking at our own sadness truthfully is the only way to find healing." After Arthur left, the teal chair remained, quiet and comfortable. People were no longer afraid of it. They began to sit in it, not to seek sadness, but to seek stillness, acceptance, and a little peace in their souls. Eleanor often sat in the chair at the end of the day, after the library had closed. She felt the softness of the velvet, the all-encompassing silence. She didn't feel sad, but rather a deep connection to all those who had sat there before, those who had dared to face their own emotions. The chair was no longer the chair no one wanted to sit in. It had become the chair of empathy, a silent testament to the power of accepting and confronting the deepest aspects of the human heart. The story of the teal chair in the Havenwood Library became a quiet lesson, spreading from heart to heart, that sometimes the most feared place can be where we find the deepest comfort and healing.